October 7th, 2024, special meeting. It's 9:01. Do the RIP pledge, first of all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Marsh, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, then all commissioners are present with Commissioner Marsh on the phone. 12, we have the agenda. Ratify the agenda. I need approval on that.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. And we'll go into the 2025 budget discussion. Approve, is there anything we need to discuss before we get into the budget? You can do that, yes.
Okay, just so everybody knows how I determine the years of service, I didn't have clear directions. So what I did is if you started between January till the end of May, then you got credit for that year. If you started between June 1st and the end of December, you did not get credit for that year.
Okay. You want to go through department by department, or how it, check the changes, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's good information here on that breakdown, benefit breakdown page. And then also having the convenience of time to kind of take a look at and digest what we talked about and did last Tuesday. I guess I'd be open for some discussion in general terms, whether it was the plan that we approved on the 17th in the preliminary meeting or the plan that we approved last week, strictly in compensation, because I don't think there's any other lines of anybody's budget that's being further discussed, unless I'm mistaken, so.
We do have a few road lines that I'll need answers for, especially on the, you received a state aid distribution sheet, just to kind of see how that's running. Because, and maybe if you guys are okay, we could start there, because that'll kind of give a good answer on Al's revenue side. On his budget, on the county road budget, you see I have question marks by state aid. It's because it's dependent on if you're continuing the state aid distribution as is, or if you're going back to it going into his county road fund. So how it was changed last year, right now you have 7% going into county road, because now it's all one fund, so I'll have to combine those lines. And you have 18% going into a road special projects fund. It's up to the commission. Do they want it to go all into his county road fund, or do they want to continue the special projects fund? But that'll give an answer to what my revenue questions are on the road budget.
Yeah, you're right. We did change that a year ago. I guess at this point, part of the reason was to build up a reserve if we ever have a situation where the state aid payments were reduced. So I guess I would like to see us continue that 18 cents, 2 cents, and 5 cents. You're going to merge the 5 and the 2?
Yep. I will be merging the 5 and the 2, because it's all one budget now.
If this gets extended.
Well, automatically, the
Okay.
5 and the 2 will get merged, because it's all one budget now.
Any other discussion on the state aid and distribution payments?
Just a second. Did Bernie get a copy of this?
Yeah, in a previous email, he would
Okay.
have. Actually, 3 previous emails.
Any other discussion on that?
If not, I'll make a motion to extend the breakdown of the state aid distributions as distributed for fiscal year 2025.
I'd second.
That's what that combination is.
Yeah, the 18 to projects and the 7 cents, 5 cents and the 2 cents to county road on
Okay.
Oregon and bridge, so.
Okay, you have a motion, and a second. Any other discussion?
Just real quick here. What line, account number is that gonna combine into? The 2160 or the 2120?
So the 2120 and the 2155 are going to
Yeah,
combine into Al's 2150 account because we have them all combined together under 2150. 2150 is the new road
okay.
budget.
Okay, any other discussion? Not, then roll call. Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Okay. Any other discussion then before we go?
I was just gonna mention weed. Weeds just need, it's not a huge deal, but Karen, you've got, in the weed budget, you've got, chemical reimbursement miscellaneous at 2,500. That just needs to be moved into that miscellaneous revenue. And then, we had proposed 5,000 in overtime for weed. It's now at 3,900. I'd like to get that back to 5,000.
Okay,
Where's that at? Yeah.
so 5,000 here, and I'm sorry, well, what
just
did you say was the
up in the-
first revenue?
Yeah, up in the revenue, it's a minor deal, but it's 2,500 you've got in the chemical reimbursement for miscellaneous. That 2,500 actually needs to go into the miscellaneous line, for some equipment sales.
I thought I moved that once already.
Yeah, we've talked about it, it's just, yeah, everything else going on.
Okay, so it needs to go in the just plain miscellaneous
Yeah,
line?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Want to make that motion?
So do I need, yeah, so I guess I need to make, for the change in dollars in that overtime, I guess I'd make the motion to move, upwards from 3,900 to 5,000 on the overtime line, 2970, 4814, 140 on the weed budget.
It looks like it's already at 5,000, right, for 25 proposed?
No,
3,925, or to 5,000?
No, well,
not what I have.
2024, it was at 5,000.
Yeah,
And I needed to move it up to 5,000. I don't know where the 3,900 came from. Maybe it came from the following line.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because the original one you sent out in the folder here says 5,000.
The original one?
Yeah.
Okay.
how many versions ago was this?
This is number 3. This is number 3. I probably wouldn't individually approve those because we haven't approved the budgets as a whole yet anyways. So, great time for discussion on them though. Poor Lana, she has 20 different motions she writes down.
So did you make the motion?
I did make a motion.
Did someone second it? If not, I'll second it.
Do you have a motion, and a second? Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, motion carried. Any other? We want to go,
So I did take the, you'll see capital improvement budget. I took those cabinets out because you approved them at the last commission meeting, so that's back at 0. I don't know of any capital improvement projects, but Mike looks like he has his finger up, so
Do you have a dollar idea?
Quote and another quote coming. I set aside the last 10 grand.
Okay, let me,
So would that be out of this year's budget, though, not 2025's? When were they gonna do it?
If we can get to it before it gets cold, if people have time. For silicone.
do we have money left in 24?
I haven't got to look at my budget yet, but I'm guessing I should be close. But we have done quite a few projects out of my budget this year.
Well, yeah, we've got actual, what, 425 for 24. You had a budget of 692 prior. Does that sound right?
No, go to buildings and grounds.
Oh.
Yep, this is just your capital improvement account.
Yeah.
So Mike would be under buildings and grounds.
And this just came up last week or two with these bids, so.
Can we leave the numbers as proposed, and if we're short in either 24 or 25, can we come in and just, rather than build that up for one project and then all of a sudden it becomes a continuum year after year?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay. What's our next procedure? I guess we're gonna go through each department by department, or how do you wanna go, proceed with the budget?
Whatever you think.
Well, we have two budgets approved, don't we? Don't we have the one from the earlier meeting and the one from last meeting? We haven't approved them, but, excuse me. We need to decide which one we're gonna go with.
That's, I guess that's a plan. We've gotta approve one of them today.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
technically, we should do compensation first, shouldn't we? And then, or do you want to do it the other way? I mean, if we approve a budget, no matter what department it is, if you approve that budget and then all of a sudden we go back to compensation and change
Right.
it again, we gotta go back into each budget, so.
And that's fine.
Then we go through it, okay, we'll discuss compensation then, I guess. Any discussion on that? Gotta decide, I guess, if we're gonna go with what was proposed our last meeting on the October 1st or the September 17th one.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'll start the discussion, with the benefit of some extra time and review. I see merit or good points, I don't want to use the word merit yet, in both the preliminary on the 17th that we adopted and the years of service component that we adopted last week. Obviously, some of the feedback on both of those was good. And so, if we're gonna run with what we did last week, that's fine. If we're gonna try to do some kind of hybrid, that's fine. I still like to see us do a years of service task force, whether that includes just insurance or whether it includes, if we do something other than years of service today, then I would say we need to put years of service and insurance in the same conversation and get that done early next year. And with that, I'm all ears.
When's the next department head meeting?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
So for budget 2026, what I would like to see to kind of avoid having 3 different budgets and multiple meetings made is I would like some sort of system that we're going to adopt. I have seen some ideas, from other places. Some of them use STEP programs. I don't see why we can't put years of service in there, do a combination of our own, and then the commission is just setting the COLA. And I don't see why we can't integrate everything, insurance, maybe a certain percentage for years of service and a step program, and then the commission just determines the COLA. I would like to come up with something like that of a hybrid for maybe in the springtime, so we can adopt it, have it in policy, so that way the employees can look at it, and other than the COLA, they can know exactly where they are. And it would probably eliminate a lot of these future issues.
Well, I think, last week, I mean, I'm not against what we decided, but, you know, we changed our motion, the same motion several times, well, we didn't change the motion, we sort of changed the direction of it until we finally came up with the right motion. I don't know if we put enough thought into it all, excuse me, but, that's just I just think maybe it was a little bit hurried through.
So I am asking the commission to maybe, if one or hopefully two of the commissioners are willing to work with me on putting together something that we can know dollar amount wise, compensation wise, and have that ready to go maybe in March and make it this is how our pay increases work, and have it ready to go out in the spring. I don't know if the commission's open to that, but it would alleviate a lot of these extra budgets.
Well, I'm willing to help out. I think, you know, HR should have a role in it as well, and to make sure that I don't know, if Joe, have you been working on anything?
You want to step up to the,
I'm sorry.
Human Resources Director, Joetta Piercy. I mean, I already have all of the salary scales that I've built over the past few years and kept them up to date with the market. Those could easily be turned into salaries step scales. So that's where you have like steps 1 through 20. 1 is the minimum, 20 is the maximum, and you move up this step typically every year. Sometimes in the beginning you get one at 6 months. It has a max, so that's the most you can make unless you get a promotion or move to a different grade. There's that sort of thing. You kind of need a market done though every, year or 2 years though, because markets do change for different jobs.
Are you doing it as an analysis every year, and that's what you send out?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yep,
so that's not an issue.
yep.
And then, I'm all for it, so we have some direction going forward, so we don't have such long conversations, heated debates, and we can just move on and get these approved quicker, so.
Yeah, and I think that conversation, and I'll do whatever I need to as well, but it has to include merit. We can't just reward years of service. The comment was made last week that by going only years of service then and COLA, then you're not rewarding efficiency and functionality. It must be a dead horse, but I still think we have some underutilized departments. Only one person reached out to me and had a good conversation about what that department does or does not do in regarding the underutilized conversation. And so I think if we're doing our job, all those things need to be part of the conversation. So I agree.
And then I think, that conversation, I know we brought up the longevity line item too, to either roll it in or, as well. So I'm not opposed to using putting some stuff together and then send it out to all county employees, like on a Survey Monkey or something, see what their feedback is too. And I don't know if anybody's utilized that in the past, and get some feedback.
All the counties, you mean?
No, just Winona County.
Within our.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm hoping as part of what would be put together for this would encompass both merit with the STEP program as you move up the steps, that would be your merit side, and then years of service would be another component, like a combination, whether that's health insurance or, you know, a certain percentage as your years go on, and then a COLA. And some years there might not be any COLA. I mean, we have to be prepared for that too. But then we could potentially put insurance in there. We could potentially get rid of the longevity for next year if we incorporate it into the pay and the insurance side. I don't know what other department heads think, but that was kind of what I was thinking for building something out.
Well, I would agree. I mean, I'm really proud about the fact that we're all getting together on this and having this broad discussion on, and trying to meet head-on a problem that I think we've all identified. Something needs to happen here. I'm pretty sure we can all get our heads together and get this right. You know, as close to right as possible. So I'm glad that the conversation's being had. So I'm in favor of forming some sort of committee and moving this thing forward. Whatever happens today with this current budget, you know, that's not entirely up to me, but I'm in favor of us, you know, really working towards coming up with a good framework for next year, and it'll be good for everybody.
That being said, we got looking for next year, but we gotta decide something today on this.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
So, and also, one thing I'd like to add to that, though, when that group or whoever's on that group, if that group exists, also review job descriptions as well, to make sure that those people who are doing their jobs, their job description fits what they're doing.
I think that's a great idea.
Do you want me to go over this benefit page at all? I know that I'd put that out there. So how I did that is comparison between the 2% and the years of service to what was approved, what was the preliminary budget that we had in September. So it's actually not your like health benefits, anything like that. It's your benefit on how many people benefit going to the 2% in years of service, how many people are from the preliminary budget, how many employees are not benefiting going to the 2% in years of service from what was approved in the preliminary budget. And then we have our neutral employees. Our neutral employees are the ones that their years of service and their 2% would equal 3%, which would be the same thing that they're getting in the preliminary budget. So, or there was no change, like the state's attorneys would be neutral because they're getting the same from the preliminary proposed that they would from the years of service, and 2% that was outside of that. So that's where your numbers are coming from, number of employees that benefited, that are not benefiting from going to this, and then the number of employees that are neutral. And I didn't know if the commissioners had any questions on any of this. I tried to make it as,
Yeah, I think it's pretty understandable.
and then those columns that are also on that same page, the proposed preliminary and the proposed new. The proposed new is the 2% plus years of service. The proposed preliminaries was what was approved in the preliminary. So those dollar amounts are coming from there, because I think it's important to not just focus on the general fund, because we have a lot of other funds that are used. And county road is a big one that it has a lot of salaries in it, so.
Can I comment on the road salary budget here? Looking this morning here, if you go down on Gabe Boggins' line, I think that longevity somehow got pulled over, that he's only been here a short period of time. But also, in them regards, where you look at his salary line, and I probably to blame, I didn't look at it close enough, he should actually be bumped closer to the rest of the guys. He's really turned out to be an excellent employee, lays gravel, and, if you look at the rest of the compensation for the guys, you know, it's the same as our seasonal guy, so I'd like to bump that. I mean, we still haven't approved anything yet, cause, you know, retainage that young man is very important.
So is that Vaughan on 133 or 132?
On 130,
You said Gabe?
Gabe.
Okay,
yeah,
got it. I didn't hear.
133.
I'm sorry.
You know, you look at that, I think, I'm gonna go out on a limb, I think you should be bumped at least 4,000 to do, compensate, if we look at the rest of the salaries and what he does, and even, you know, that's the same salary as our seasonal guy, so if we're making some adjustments here, he's one guy that needs to be there for the long haul.
So on the proposed new side, the 60,762
Yep.
is the 2% plus the 0.5% he would have for years of service. So that is correct. The 60,762. The one beside it, where you see the 60,169.20.
Right.
That's because, Al, you would have to disperse your bucket that you have. That 26,124.16 bucket that's
Right.
on your first page.
Right.
That hasn't been dispersed yet.
Okay.
So that.
But I'm
that-
saying he's definitely worth to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. Lives right there in Taylor. It's very important that he, and like I said, if you look at the rest of the salaries to the guys, I think he's a little bit short, and I might kind of blame for that, not that he didn't get the bump along the way, but, so. That being said, it's,
Yeah, good. I think that's good points. My question would be, if we would have adopted some kind of a merit system, would have he been treated differently or the same as all
well,
your other?
he's only here probably, he might be here a year. But hopefully that young man will stay here and retire, because he's a really good hand. Not to say my other guys ain't good hands, but he's a young guy that we need to retain.
So you do have another employee that's at that same dollar amount, and that is Kinzel.
He's seasonal.
He's only seasonal. Oh, okay.
That's my point where I'm getting at, so.
Have you got any applications for that Richardson? Belfield, I'm sorry. Yeah? Okay.
So do you have a suggestion, Al, where you want to bump him up to?
I'd like to at least add around 4 to it. Then he'd be kind of in line with the rest of the guys. He'd still be the lowest guy paid, but he's, you know, if you look at years of service.
So 4,000 plus the raise.
Or, was
So
it
basically,
4%? or
$2 raise is what you're asking, roughly?
If you go back and look at the 24 approved budget, and then,
That 15.
you know, it's only just $1,000 to the 25 proposed budget.
So, just for my own clarification, his published rate on column 2 is 59,280,
Right.
and you want to move him to 63,280, or what?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I don't know where this first line must be just the one of merit.
So the 60,169.20 is the 1.5% because you hadn't dispersed your merit yet, your 1.5%. So up to 3%, right? You hadn't dispersed your merit bucket. So that merit bucket amount, depending on what you did per employee, would go into there as well.
30.
In this case, he would be one of those employees because he hasn't been with very long. In the years of service and the 2%, he'd be getting 2.5%. In the COLA plus the merit, he would be getting up to 3%.
And then another 2 or 3, 4 an hour for a guy, that's a big bump for a guy with
Well,
one
I'm
foot.
not, this is kind of confusing here. You got 2% plus years of service, 2% is at the COLA, and then you got the other merit pay on this side. I thought last meeting, it was a 2% plus years of service. Now it's,
Yep, so there's two columns. There's the preliminary
I see
proposed
that.
budget, yep. And that was the 1.5% plus your merit bucket. But you would have to disperse your merit bucket.
It's up to you, once you get that bucket, how you disperse it.
Yep,
I don't disagree with you at all, Al. Is that,
I mean-
that he's a quality hand, but just working, just to give you an idea where the numbers lie.
Right,
What you're
yeah.
proposing is a 7%.
that, no, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I just think he needs a bump along the way, more so than just the years of service and 1.5, 2%.
Yep, thus another good example of why we should do merit pay.
Correct.
So because then Al gets to make that determination. He can use that pool of 26,124 however he wants. If he wants to give this gentleman another 3,000 over and above the 1.5%, he can do that and still reward the rest of his employees.
Correct.
I don't know, maybe I'm not getting it today, but, so the last line item is 2%
Yeah,
merit,
yes.
or 2% cost of living.
Yeah.
And then the years, plus the years of service
Yeah.
equals this number.
Yeah.
And then I take that 1.5% and that,
No,
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 it's
it's gonna be either
either
or.
or.
It's gonna be an either or
so that's
decision
where I'm
today.
getting at, where,
Yes.
whatever we end up with, I would like to see him get a bump of something. It's not, don't have to be 7%, I want it to be fair.
And you'll
But-
have that opportunity.
but you're choosing that, so
Right.
that, let me show you your bucket.
So one of the most important components of this
But-
whole grade and years of service thing is
So-
your starting point to begin with.
Your
And
bucket.
I think that's what we're finding. Maybe he was not started appropriate in the first place.
But there's always probationary. I'm okay with probationary periods where you get, maybe we need, Joanna, do we have a probationary period bracket on most of these or no?
No, no, we don't have a probationary period, but, so when people are brought in, Gabe was brought in, he didn't have his CDL. So then when he got his CDL, he did get a bump. But I think what Al's trying to say is that he would like to give him a market adjustment. So, and that's what you a lot of times have to do with new people. You don't know their skill set or what they can do when they come in. So that's why it's kind of nice when you have a salary market scale and not a step scale, that you can have that ability to do that with people. And typically it's the ones that you bring in at the lower end that you need to bring them up faster to the mid-range, because it's kind of like a bell curve. The majority of your employees are typically paid within the mid 50 percentile, 25 to 75 type of a thing. Yeah. So,
Can you get us a market on him? He's been here 1 year, right?
I get concerned when we start talking about market. I mean, every county is different. I mean, I know Dunn County is probably smaller, but I know they're working with a lot more money than we are, and I mean, and McKenzie County and Williams County. There's 3 counties within pretty close proximity to Stark County that their financial situation is completely different than
And
Stark
if you,
County.
and if you go south or east or, south or it's a whole different arena once again, right? Hettinger County's way different than Stark or Dunn or whatever, so.
At the same time, trying to stay competitive. There is a marketplace, and we have to stay competitive, but in trying to compare it to those counties, I think it's just apples, oranges.
Well, and to do Marcus analysis on positions doesn't necessarily say that we have to pay our guys that. It just gives you a 10,000-foot view of where you're at.
Yeah.
So, and we can still do the step program or however we want, but we just got to make sure that we're finding a way to retain the individuals that we have as well. So, because Kildare's not a far drive to go work.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
still
Next
looking
step,
for answers.
yeah, it's still waiting for this
Well,
answer, one or the other, I
I
guess.
think I don't know if anybody else has individuals that they wanted to have a discussion about, but I think now we should transition, we could transition we've had 5-6 days to think about the two proposals that we've had and what the thoughts are, pros and cons to both. My personal opinion, I think the years of service conversation needs to be kind of researched. I think we've never done it before. I commend Paul for bringing it to the table. I just, I can't use the word short meeting because it wasn't, but in a meeting, one meeting that we hammer all that out and make all the best decisions, because there's another player in this conversation, and it's the taxpayer that needs to be thought of as well, so.
I think ultimately that we probably get to a situation where we have basically 3 columns. You have COLA, you have years of service, and you have merit. I'm a little concerned about the merit thing here, just because I think we probably have a lot of work to do here as a county to get this merit thing squared away. And the years of service thing may be just a touch archaic, probably. But I always go back to, I truly believe that those years of service, I mean, loyalty matters a lot. Those people that have decided to be, to work at this county, and I know there's all sorts of arguments that, people maybe hang on too long or whatever it might be, but those years of service that loyalty is important to me. And in some sense, if you think about the evolution of the pay scale in Stark County, for instance, some of those folks that started at this county 20 years ago, the economic condition of Stark County was considerably different than it is today. And they were started at a fairly low level. So anyway, but once again, I'm not digging my heels in on this thing. I'm totally open to conversation. I think the conversation's great.
We have longevity right now. If we don't feel it's enough, we can always adjust that as a bonus. I mean, that's another option. I think that, yeah, we did probably do the one last meeting just a little bit quicker than without as much thought as we probably should have.
Refresh my memory. What's the longevity formula if it's simple?
I do not know the formula. I guess Karen would know that, or.
The current longevity, I know it's very minuscule.
It's years of service, and then it's based on a scale. There's years or months. It's broken down into months of service then, and then it's by 3 based on, up to 15 years or something. I don't have it in front of me, and then 3.5, and then 4. So if you're here 20 years, you get all of those months times 4%. So 4. So legit, some of the road guys that have been here 20 years are getting a couple $1,000s.
Okay,
But if you're here 6 years, it's probably $200. Like it's,
yeah.
yeah.
And so one of the things that was visited about it, one of the arguments was when we were, not we so much, but the state converting from the PERS to the the contribution one, was that defined contribution. Part of that conversation was the workforce dynamics have changed so much because now people are rolling jobs every 5 to 7 years. The 20-year employee is the exception rather than the rule, and so how do you formulate a policy that is reactive to that that workforce? So I kind of agree that if we adopt any kind of years of service policy, that the current longevity one needs to go bye-bye.
If I may, Chairman, in my discussions with my employees, and I brought this up the last meeting, the consensus is from my staff, the overwhelming consensus is tying in that years of service with the insurance.
Right. I'm good with that.
Yep.
Oh, his longevity is off. Oh, you know what? I bet because that was the previous one. Okay. But that one.
I was just gonna let you know that I've been working on a spreadsheet. I had one a couple of years ago that I worked on that ties your years of service to how much premium you pay. So I will have that ready, and we could kind of see if we could roll like our longevity dollars into that. So then they would get credit. And it basically uses the percentages we have now. They pay 20% of a family plus plan, and then 10% of a single. And so basically how it kind of works is it goes down, like for the family, 2.5% each year that they have to pay. At 16 years, they would pay 0, and then 2.5, 5, and then the single goes down 1% each year because they don't pay as much to begin with. So that's kind of what I'm working on, and I can bring that when I have it ready.
So just to confirm my suspicions, longevity pay for 2024 has already been established.
Yes,
So if we make any change, it's only for 2025.
correct.
Yes.
So I agree. I think we should early January 1, put a task force together. And somebody used, I don't know if I did or somebody else said, by March 1st, bring a
I would like
recommendation
by
back.
March to
Yeah,
have
okay.
the-
So we're going to do that, I think, by separate motion, but I agree. I think everybody's on board with that. I think what we need to do is figure out what lane we're going down here. We got like 4 or 5 lanes. Let's start eliminating them. I'm kind of in favor of some kind of a hybrid, what was between the September 17th meeting and what we did last week. And I'd like to, before we get into particulars, like to hear other comments on that.
So the first proposal and between the second proposal, the maximum raise or compensation increase an employee could get at the county outside the state's attorney was 4.5%.
Under the September 17 one?
Under the October 1.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
And the maximum on the September 17th was
3%.
3%.
Yes.
Except for the individually adjusted
Yes.
approved
there's
departments.
some-
There was some different ones, yeah.
Yes.
To clarify that, I guess my budget was written up on the pool of money from the September 17th one, based on our evaluations.
And
Which was a 1.5, right, for the merit? Yes.
3%, he was working with the 3%
3%.
bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
1.5. 1.5 cost of living and 1.5 bucket.
yeah, so 3% all
Yeah.
together, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll take a stab at it to get this conversation going. I would move that the employees, and I think the exception to this conversation will be the 3 assistant state's attorneys and the deputy auditor. All other employees get a 1.5% COLA raise, and each department head gets 1.5% merit to be distributed based on their discretion. And then we can deal with department heads and other people identified here.
How is that different from the one that we had in September?
Well, it is the same, Bernie, on regard the employee.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yep,
Okay.
on the employees,
Yes,
other
Yes.
than the ones I just identified.
yes. I'll second that.
Motion and second, other discussion?
You're carving out whom here?
Well, I think that based on the 2 meetings that we had, the auditor, deputy auditor, and the 3, well, I suppose potentially the state's attorney and the 3 assistant state's attorneys would be different on this. Because I
I guess
believe,
the only other question would be Alscott. We just discussed the bargain gentleman. I mean, if that falls into this area or if it falls into a separate discussion.
yeah, I would want Al's input, but I hope that we addressed the Vaughan situation
Okay, so we can
with
we can do
merit
that
pay.
1.5% there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. Okay, that's great.
It's for all employees. Yeah.
Well, unless there's some other ones that were different other than the ones I identified. Because now is forever's.
Morning, Commission. Kim Cassian, Stark County Recorder. In my budget, I was asking, hopefully the note was, you guys all got the note, the asking for 5% for Andrea. Now, you guys can probably determine when that could happen, but I would like for her to get a 5% because she is moving into Norma's position. Norma's retiring 1/24 of 25. And Andrew will be moving into her position at that last week in January. And asking for 5% for her or 26, I think it comes out to be $25.99 with the 5% or a full 26. And that can start whenever that pay period comes into play. It wouldn't have to necessarily be right January 1 or the couple weeks in December that we start, but I would like to.
So she's the gal that, Reboot, or what's her name?
Rebout.
Rebout? She's moving up into that full-time position.
No,
She's
Andrea's
retiring.
moving into
King
King.
is,
King is moving into
Gotcha.
Norma's position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Norma's retiring at the
Yep.
end of January, and Kim is not replacing Norma.
I'm
She just
internally.
moving somebody into the
Yep.
role.
Changing job
Yep.
duties, yeah.
Yep. And she's actually keeping her current job duties plus, you know,
So if you did what you are proposing, basically you take away the name and you substitute the position, right? Because you're taking someone from one position into another position that was more highly compensated.
Yeah,
And-
but
and
I'm-
you're not taking her all the way
no,
up there.
no.
Yeah,
By all means, no.
I guess I don't.
And-
if
But
we're
that
not-
position is no longer there in the either the 2025 proposed.
Like that.
Because she was decreasing her budget. And so that Norma's position, that 14,000 that's currently there, that's just to get through January
January,
and her
yep.
payout for her years of service and everything else like that. That's what we calculated to be about the number to pay her out.
And we had this, I had this discussion with Kim. She's just absorbing those roles.
Yep.
She's not filling it. And I told her myself I did see an issue with that after the retirement date.
Yeah,
So that pay period of that week or
Yep.
I got you.
yeah. And so what, yeah, okay. I agree
Yep.
too. If you're into another position, the sheriff does it with his personnel, moves them in different categories, gets compensated accordingly. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. So whether you wanted to do the asking for, you know, for 5% or a full 26, because it's $25.99.
Put a dollar amount on it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
we can
or
we can
just 26.
we can also approve that in the January meeting, can't we?
Yeah, either way. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there just so I'm prepared for next year for budget-wise. I mean, I would like to be able to, you know, compensate her for the position she is. And like Al was saying with his, she is one I do want to retain.
Okay.
Right.
Any questions for me, you guys?
You just make sure that's on the January meeting. We'll put it on the January one.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I want to make sure that we have enough in there for,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like to,
So the way
To
the
move it.
motion is read, is there enough in there to compensate the plan that you want?
No, we just
No.
put 14,000 to pay out Norma.
So
Yep.
how many additional dollars do we need to put in there?
with the 5%, it would come up to $54,054, or with the 26, just the dollar amount, 54,080. So it'd be,
So it would be,
rather than the 52,000.
yeah.
That's
so
what
Do the, yeah, let's do the math, and I'll amend my motion to put that dollar amount in there. If,
What is the, okay, so the starting, do you have the budget in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so the starting amount is what? The 51,480?
that's
Yeah,
this year's.
That's what's this year's.
So adding 5% to that.
Yes.
Which I'm getting 54,054. Does that sound right?
Yep, with
Okay.
the 5%.
The
Or
5%.
if we did the 26, it's 54,080.
So
If we
it-
did like the dollar amount of $26, just flat.
Oh,
Yeah.
54, oh, whatever, 54 minus the 52,767 would be the differential
Yeah,
we need
20
to add to the budget.
2574.
$2,574.
that's what she was proposing.
Yep.
This
Okay.
is the preliminary. That's what was approved in the preliminary budget meeting.
Yeah, if we're going the or the per.
Take- Let's
new
do a
one.
quick math. Take that number, subtract 52,767.
2,767.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have the
Corey-
original budget
Corey's
of
white, right.
51,480 and add 5%, 54,054 is what
Yeah.
I have.
Yep, so that 25,774, I would change my motion to include that.
Or did you want to go with the $26? Because it's $25.99 versus 26, so it's a penny.
Whatever that is, yeah.
It's 54,080.
Okay,
Okay, which amount are we going with the?
54,080.
Okay, any other discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And we'll make a motion on that when that, okay. Thank you.
Are we, oh, I thought you were amending your motion.
Yeah, it's,
Well, in the budget, I am amending my motion, and what we're saying as part of that motion is that this would become effective once the recorder's office comes in and makes the retirement and the promotion
Okay.
effective.
okay, have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Roll call vote then, Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
chair votes aye, motion carried. So now we need to go through anything else on the,
Well, so that was the 1.5 motion with the amendment
COLA.
for the one position in the recorder's office, correct?
Yes.
right,
All right.
Is there a separate discussion about department heads?
Now we should discuss department heads and the individuals and positions that weren't, that were identified by my motion, I think, yep.
What was the 17th discussion?
That would be, what was
Or I
approved?
mean, I'm sorry, October 1st discussion.
That's what is in the 2025 proposed commission line,
2% plus years of service.
or the ones that were different than what the preliminary was.
yeah, in September, I think 17th, we went somewhere, one was 1.5, the rest were 2%, I think.
They were all different. Yep. So are you still leaving the governing board at 0? Because then I can know where you guys are at.
Sure, we don't need a raise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ask Bernie, he was the one who voted against it, but yeah.
We put in our time,
Yeah.
$50, some small dollar amount that doesn't make a lot of difference. That's the way it is.
That looks like a comfy chair, Bernie.
How do you go from a vehicle to a recliner?
I was sitting by my kitchen counter, actually, I was sitting by my computer in the other room, and I figured, well, you know what, I might as well kick back a little bit, because this might take a while. I think we already voted on the commission thing, so that's not a big deal.
Okay, so that one's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're gonna go by department then, or what?
What's that?
Should go department by department then, or what review next?
Well, I mean, the minimum each department was getting was 2% other than what we had for HR, which was 1.5. And I think, in my-
You had some other ones that were different.
well, so the state's attorney, the auditor, was there any others that were
There
different?
was some, let me, sorry.
I missed that then. I'm sorry.
I,
Okay. Is it this one? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that
Yep.
we're on the same.
so there was no, in the September 17th budget, there was no consideration for merit for department heads. It was just pure COLA. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for, in the 17th meeting, you had Human Resource Department Head, you had set at 1.5%. And that's just the 1.5%, right? For the planner, you had set at 2%. And then I'm skipping over state's attorney because we're going back to that.
So, I mean, where we have run into some difficulty is, okay, so who is setting the department heads? If there were to be a merit line for department heads, who's setting that? Who gets, if it's a pool thing, I mean, you've got the option to give them the full 1.5, or you can go,
Yeah.
or you can give them a 1% or whatever it is. Who, is it the
So-
portfolio holder that would set that?
Well, I'll back up. On the 17th, there was no merit pay provisions for department heads. Okay? And I think department heads, my personal opinion, department heads are a different category, and we're potentially dealing with that with a couple that are not in here. I don't know how you do merit pay with department heads.
I think it would have to be their one up, their one that they communicate with, and then it would overall it'd be the 5 commissioners, but,
Yeah. And I would hope that all
That's-
5 commissioners would
And if-
participate in any department head changes in compensation.
and, if we're talking about doing, yearly reviews, department heads will be doing yearly reviews with their portfolio holder.
But today, to get through today's budget, I mean, right now, we have 0 merit.
On the 17th, it was, most of them were at 2, other than a couple carve-outs.
I'll make a
And
motion.
We
on-
have 1.5, we have 2, and then we have some at 3, and then we have some at a dollar amount.
Okay.
I'll
Which,
make-
which were the 3% ones?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that department heads receive the 1.5 COLA, consistent with the remainder of the county, and that they are eligible for a 2% merit. And that merit can be decided by this commission, I guess. But I think it's probably, I don't know, a little bit out of whack that they're not even eligible for merit here in the previous. So I would motion that they are eligible for merit for 2%.
A motion to have a second.
So 1.5 COLA, 2% merit.
Up to 2% merit?
Up to 2%.
Right?
Yep. Up to 2% merit, which that amount needs to be set by either the portfolio holder, or we should get a recommendation from the portfolio holder. That was my
Yes.
motion.
I guess I'd be more comfortable with doing the same as the employees, 1.5 instead of the 2, but I don't know.
Are you saying all department heads, or are we gonna have some further discussion?
Well, yeah, we're carving out, I mean, we've already carved out, I think I think everybody's in agreement that we're carving out state's attorneys and, their staff and, deputy auditor out of this conversation. She wouldn't be part of the department head conversation anyway, but,
I think you're gonna have to carve out the sheriff too, because you can't really do merit on his, so you'll have to set a percentage or dollar amount.
On,
'Cause we don't do evaluations, like, elected officials, we don't have evaluations
Right.
like that, so. But it's up to the commission, that, I'm just letting you know that there's nothing like that.
Okay.
So,
Repeat that, Karen. I was listening, but maybe I wasn't.
So the other elected officials, so me, Corey, and Amanda, do not have portfolio evaluations because we're elected officials and you can't evaluate us like that, like the same.
Okay.
So you're not going to have anything like
Okay.
paper-wise, merit-wise. So you probably have to address those salaries separately. I mean, you can do whatever you like.
Well,
I'm
carve
just letting.
just out of this, out of the department head motion, carve those three departments out, basically. Okay.
Especially for the department heads, because that'll have to be, you don't have any evaluations. But if that's what you're using for your merit, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say if Commissioner Claris would be open, is you find the department heads that were falling underneath this, and let's give them a flat COLA increase and get the, and make every year, make them kind of determine their worth. You know, whatever that number is, I'm okay, a little bit flexible on that. I think merits and department heads are tough.
They are, for sure,
Very
but,
difficult.
but we all.
Even tougher than employees.
But I mean, that's the reasoning for the portfolio holders.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be all working closely with our portfolios and, you know. But
The only challenge to that is uniformity. When you have a department head that has 3 employees or 30 employees, you have one set of eyes looking at what merit is. Commissioner Corey would look at his department's heads a little different than maybe I do, and so then there's not a uniform application to merit. That's the challenge I see in that regard. Not that it couldn't happen, but I'm just.
okay. Well, I kind of have a motion on the table.
Yes.
It sounds like it's going to die for lack of second.
I'm trying to think it out, because I know there was some evals sent out by HR to the department heads. I don't know if they were all filled out, completed. Did we get one from everybody that we sought them out from? Did all your reviews get back sent to you?
I didn't do employee evaluations, and you don't do department head evaluations on me, Amanda, or
Correct.
Corey. Yeah.
Correct. It's not me you're waiting on, right?
I had a motion, do I have a second on it?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any other discussion?
So,
The only discussion I have is I'd prefer to see them be at the 1.5% as the employees other than the 2%.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, then Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh,
Nay.
Commissioner Masser,
no,
chair votes no.
Somebody want to have a new motion out there then?
I think, well, I'm gonna kind of read what Bernie was saying. So I would agree to, I'll make a motion that all department heads, with the exclusion of state's attorney, auditor, sheriff, get a 2.5% raise.
I'd second that.
So the motion and second. Any other discussion? Roll call
You're gonna
vote.
just leave that as a raise, or you're gonna go COLA and merit, and just straight out 2.5%?
The straight COLA, we'll avoid
Okay, that's fine.
merit.
Just so I understand it. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, then Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Now, do we need to go into the,
So, yeah, we have the state's attorney and assistants left. We have the auditor and deputy auditor left and the sheriff left, if I read the tea leaves correctly.
I'm gonna request that I go last for once.
So should we do sheriff's department? Corey, can you tell, what was September 17th? What did you request? I know you've already done, you've been doing the same thing for several years with your merit and
Right. 2%.
2%. So I'd make the motion to go back to the sheriff's department for September 17th at the 2%.
Is that the 1.5 COLA and the 2% merit?
You're talking about 2% for your salary, right?
Yeah, 2% total,
Just for the
Like,
sheriff's position.
just for my position.
Oh, for your position.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were going, never mind. So, and what, that was in the 17th, right? Was 2%.
Yep.
Got it right in front of me here.
So that would put Corey Lee at 105.60. That's the 2%.
Did-
Fine.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the sheriff be treated like the other department heads. I mean, I think it should be 2.5, but we can discuss the motion, I guess.
is there a motion or?
I think you made a motion, or no? I don't.
Made the motion at 2%. The September 17th meeting.
Is there a motion then? Do I have a second? Do you have a second? Hearing no second, motion dies.
I was gonna let him take another whack at it.
So we will take another, I'll make a motion at 2.5%.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, any discussion? Roll call vote, Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Masser,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Then we go to the state's attorney's office.
I would, based on previous discussions, I would move that the state's attorney and 3 assistant positions be funded for 2025 with a 5% increase, salary increase.
I'd second that.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, then Commissioner Masser,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. We have the auditor.
Are we actually setting 2 salaries here, deputy auditor and auditor?
My first motion did carve out the auditor and deputy auditor, yes.
And then can we relook at my, Pam? I would still propose that I put her somewhere in the range of 3.5 to 5% for Pam.
You proposed,
I proposed 5%. The department had proposed that was approved in the preliminary. I have Pam at 5% at 71,500. But that's up to the commission, so.
What does the 7720 reflect there, Karen?
So the 70,720 is if you, Pam has been with us for 16 years. If you approved the 2% plus years of service, you actually penalized her and gave her a lower dollar amount than if she would have got the 2% in the years of service by setting her at 70,500. So I was gonna request that she at least gets the same 2% in years of service as everybody else, if you went that route.
So my follow-up to that would be kind of similar to what Kim is going through. Is there a process where we're having an office specialist is a pretty generic or pretty broad term? Is there something in there that define her position more detailed to allow to support your position?
So I have to update, obviously, my job duties because things have changed a lot in my office. But Pam is our main accounts receivable person. And then she also deals with delinquent properties. And then, of course, part of being in my office, you get elections too. So she's doing a lot more of the bank statement stuff now. Pam's niche is kind of, more on, she is good with numbers. So she's not gonna move into a deputy treasurer yet, but maybe in the future if we have a step program in place. So that's how it's kind of working structural wise. I used to have 2 accounts receivable people. Yeah.
I would like to see somehow a change in the job description or title to accommodate this, and maybe, I don't know, I think Corey mentioned it, maybe the job description for her position might be a little outdated, and maybe that needs to be updated.
Okay, I understand.
Look for a motion and then the auditor's office salaries.
I was just trying to do a quick calculation there.
Thought we had set, so the 95,000 was because we had set it at 95,000, or 5% for the auditor, is that what we had done?
Yeah, in the
last meeting?
October 1st
Yeah,
meeting, so the preliminary, you approved my preliminary budget, and then in the October 1st meeting, you changed it to the 95 and the 81.
So,
still not 5% though.
yeah, I was just gonna say, so I'm gonna make a motion that the auditor position be increased by 5%. It's gonna be a little above that 95.
95,676.
And the deputy auditor at the 81,000. And the special office assistant accounts receivable position be at 71,500. Because that does that exceed 5%?
71.5? No, that's 5%.
81,000 actually exceeds 5%.
Okay,
Just, I mean,
yeah,
just barely, but anyway,
okay,
but I'm good with 81.
okay. So I'll make the 5%, the 81,000, and the 71,500.
And that job description be updated.
Yes, please.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote then. Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Is there any other departments we missed?
So when you're doing, I know you're doing the salaries, but when you're doing the individual line items, I did request that I have a change into an increase in my overtime line. I didn't know which column you were going with. I do have an increase to my overtime because Lana has been spending a lot of time off the clock, doing minutes and stuff at home.
Yep, and
And I
she's
just
not
want-
exempt, so.
Yeah, and she's not exempt, so I would like an increase in my overtime line, and that's the difference between,
So,
And that
for
would,
the 10,000,
yeah, I just want it increased for 2025.
and that would be available for Pam or your administrative assistant as well, right?
The only ones that would use it would be Lana and then Pam. I don't think my admin assistant is there yet to use overtime, and I'm exempt, so.
Yep.
You want to move that from 5,000 to 10,000, or yes?
Yes, my overtime line.
Do we need a motion, I suppose, for that, or?
And she may not, I mean, it may not all be used, right? But I want something in there because my budget is significantly decreasing from 2024.
Would you be all right with 7,500 for overtime?
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Okay, I'll make the proposal for $7,500 to be added, or to be
My set overtime line.
overtime line for the auditor's office.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote then. Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Clares,
Aye.
Commissioner Messer,
aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Okay, anything else we missed? I guess overall we need approval for the total budget then, and including the 2025 contributions, correct?
Yeah, did you want to go through any of those? Are you guys okay with what is on there? Are you having
Did
any
we-
questions?
Did we approve those last week? No.
No.
Okay.
What do we have here?
These right
This
here.
is the last sheet. I did have a discussion point on that.
So all of these 2025 contributions are included in the line items on your general fund expense totals pages, just so you're aware. That's why they, you see the thousands. They're put into different line items on the expense side, depending on what they are. For Dickinson area ambulance, I have 600,000, but we don't know the exact dollar amount yet, right? And Belfield billings, I just have to budget. We don't pay that until they send us a bill. We pay after the year's over, based on usage. So those checks don't just go out in those dollar amounts, but the other ones do.
Any questions on the 2025 contributions?
Well, I would like to just open the discussion about, annually we give what we call a $500,000 to the Stark County Fair Association, and just, I get a little concerned. We finally did get a budget from them here recently, and I don't know. I think as a commission, we need to understand that we need to be a little careful about how those funds are being used. Obviously, I think everybody here is in full support of the county fair. We just want to make sure that those funds that we're using for, coming out of, we're giving them a $500,000 of taxpayer dollars to the Stark County Fair Association for the county fair. I've done quite a bit of history on the whole subject here. This whole Stark County Fair Association was basically created via statute. And there is actually quite a, there is some requirements for how these dollars are used. And I think we want to be extremely careful. And I guess I'd just open up that discussion.
Did we not, last commission meeting, agree to approve some of those dollars that was openly being handed out to groups?
That's different dollars.
Okay.
That's the community events
Board
dollars.
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
what we've done is at least start a discussion on how all this plays out, you know, Fair Board, Park Board, that relationship. And I think that would be another one that I think, in addition to the other task force, that we should have a discussion because of if, you know, we have a 600-pound gorilla out there in the Speedway that might be part of future discussion and action in the Lakeview Park. So I agree, this needs to be a discussion. I'm fine with the $500,000 for 2025, but 12 months from now, this may be an entirely different discussion, just based on the direction of how some of the stuff is going out there, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll look for a motion to approve the 2025 contributions as stated on the,
I'll make that motion to approve the 2025 contributions as submitted. I think it adds up to $1,384,270.
okay, you have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call then. Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Then we need a motion to finalize our 2025 budget.
With the changes approved today.
Yeah.
Yes.
because
I'm sure you haven't done the
I can't do
calculation.
that while I'm sitting here.
Yeah,
I'll make the motion to approve the budget with the changes that were made today.
I would second that.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Roll call vote then. Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh. Aye. Chair votes aye, motion carried. Did we cover everything or we got anything?
We better take a
I
minute.
think we have
here. Are
3
sure?
hours, we got 3 hours yet. We got to make sure we do something here, so. I'll move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Good discussion.